Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another review of Marriage at First Sight, Season 11, Episode 10, Deal Breakers. So we're about 20 days into these marriages. We're starting off with Amani and Woody. So I think it starts off in the kitchen. They wake up in the morning, Woody's making breakfast, and they're having a conversation about their children and future children and how they will go about disciplining their children. And Woody says that he's all about corporal punishment. He's all about, spanking that butt. And he sees nothing wrong with that, with whoopings and spankings. Obviously not abuse and, physically hurting your child, but corporal punishment. And Amani says that she does not agree with that at all, and that wasn't her experience in her childhood, and she doesn't plan on doing that to her kids. And so she made it very clear to him that if they were to have children, she does not want them to be spanked. She does not want them to be whooped. She does not believe in that. She says she's gonna, whoop him if he lays a hand on their children. And he said that with him, his childhood, it was different because he said that, sometimes just talking to a kid is not enough because the kid is just not going to listen. And so you kind of have to put in some reinforcement in the form of whoopings to make them behave. And he says, I wasn't the kind of kid who listened to the talking, but once I got a whooping, I knew better and I would be better. I would act better. So she says to him, well, look at your students, because I think he's a coach or a teacher. She says, well, look at your students. You get them to behave, right? And he said, yes. And he says, and you don't have to whoop them to get them to behave. You talk to them. And he was like, yeah, you have a point there. You're right. And so she was like, it's possible. We can, it's possible to discipline children without having to whoop them and to get them to do what you want them to do without using corporal punishment. And he says, I never looked at it that way. So he kind of learned something from her. And that was a nice little scene. I like that scene. And so from there on, there's a Woody and Amani meet up with two other couples for crawfish. They meet up with Olivia and Brett and Christina and Henry. The most significant thing about that scene that I took away was when Amani... Well, first of all, they noticed that Christina and Henry were definitely moving forward. They noticed that, Henry was more talkative. He had a lot of positive things to say about Christina. Christina and Henry told the group about how they went golfing and how they went salsa dancing. And Henry had mentioned that when they went salsa dancing, that he found Christina very sexy in the salsa dancing class. And everybody was like, ooh and ah, and, thank God, you have a pulse, you have feelings, you're alive, you're a real warm-blooded man. And they were so happy that Christina and Henry seemed to be progressing in their relationship. Now, the downfall to this scene was, for some reason, I didn't understand why all of a sudden. It's like I was making my notes and I looked up and all of a sudden I see Amani and Henry walking off alone together, and they sit down at the table, and Amani, who kind of has this role, or she kind of acts like, I don't know what it is. Like what's the word I'm trying to say? Like, she's the one that's kind of keeping tabs on how everybody's doing. I guess because since her and Woody are doing so well, she kind of put herself in a position, to check in on everyone and make sure that everyone's doing good. Like, she's everybody's a manager. I don't know why she does this, but I've noticed this a lot. Whenever they're in a group setting, it's Amani that's going down the row and, are you okay? Or y'all good? Or have y'all been intimate yet? Or y'all getting closer? Like, she's just making sure that she's taking tabs on everybody and see how they're progressing. Like, she's the producer or something. So anyway, so her and Henry are talking, and she's asking Henry how things are going. And Henry said that, it's been kind of difficult. He's trying to really adjust to living with Christina. And he said that her impatience is like a huge turnoff for him whenever she gets really impatient, especially when she gets impatient with the production. And he says that it's a deal breaker. Like, if she can't get that under control, it's a deal breaker for him. But he did say that within the past couple of weeks, I think, she's been doing a lot better, because he didn't tell Amani this, but we know it's because she's been on her medication. So he tells her that, within the past couple of weeks, Christina Christina has been more patient. I have seen improvements, and I guess it gives him hope for the future. So Amani goes to Christina, pulls her to the side, and tells her, well, this is what Henry told me. Now, Christina was shocked and surprised because she was like, well, he doesn't tell me any of this. He doesn't tell me anything, hardly. Yeah, because he doesn't talk. So she was saying how, like when he said at the table, how he found me attractive or he found me sexy when we were salsa dancing, he didn't tell me that. And he didn't tell me that, my impatience was a deal breaker for him. These are things that I need to know, because when I try to communicate with him, it's like pulling teeth. He's not expressive to me. So that stayed in the back of her head. But we're on Amani and Woody now. So after the crawfish dinner, the crawfish thing, they go to dinner. They have a date night. And Woody asked Amani if him falling in love with her scares her. And Amani said yes and no, but mostly no, it doesn't scare her. And her main issue is that she feels like number one, she's worried that the bottom is going to fall out at some point, that he fell so hard, so fast that it's going to fizzle out. And also she feels the pressure of keeping him in love with her. So now that he's expressed all this love and emotion for her, now she feels the pressure to keep the fire burning for him. And that's very understandable. And I'm hoping that Woody is really genuine about his feelings, that he really has fallen hard for her, because we're all hoping for that. But it's like the majority of me thinks that he fell hard and he fell quick, and that like it is going to fizzle out, because it was just too fast. Now, it's possible that you can meet someone, know them for a very short time and fall very hard for them, and then, always have those feelings for them. But statistics show that that's really not the case. Statistics show that, people who fall hard and fast get bored quickly. So anyways, and then when they were having dinner or something, she told him something like, well, if it doesn't work out, she alluded to the whole fact of, if it doesn't work out, we'll go our separate ways or something like that. And he was like, no, there is no going our separate ways, because we're married. You don't forget, we're married. And she was like, and what does that mean? Just because we're married doesn't mean we have to stay married. He was like, no, we're married. So there is no getting out of this, because this is going to involve a lot of paperwork and lawyers, and this is like a real divorce. And she was like, I don't have a problem filling out paperwork if it don't work out. And so I like his mentality of, we're married and we are in this forever, because people always seem to forget their vows when things don't work out. People are like at the first argument, first disagreement, whatever it is, people are just like, okay, I'm out. I want a divorce. So I like the fact that he has that mentality of this is for life. And it's great that it's for life, as long as when there's problems, you acknowledge those problems, you communicate those problems, and you're both willing to change to fix the problem. That's wonderful. A lot of the issues in marriages nowadays is that problems are not acknowledged. If they are acknowledged, they're ignored, and there's no communication, and no one is ever willing to change. So that was good. I hope he remembers those words, and I hope he lives by those words. That marriage is forever. And you make it forever because you have to adapt, you have to be flexible, you have to communicate, and you have to be willing to make the changes that are necessary to, to fix the problems to make your spouse happy. But moving on. So Christina and Henry. Okay. So they're having a conversation, and she tells him, I think they were sitting on the couch, I'm not sure. But she tells him that, day by day, she sees more and more things about Henry that she finds, adorable. So even though Henry seems to be very difficult to get along with, and as far as, the fact that he doesn't really communicate, he doesn't really express any feeling, any thoughts or anything like that, and he's very awkward, and he's very introverted, and he's very shy, she is still trying to see the positive in him. She might be difficult with other people, production, but with him, she seems to, I think she shows a lot of patience with him. If he sees her as being impatient, I hope he sees her as being impatient just with the production crew and not so much with him, because the kind of woman that she is, how she's kind of, She has a very strong personality. She doesn't have a problem speaking her mind. She's got a bit of an attitude. For the kind of woman that she is, she has shown a lot of restraint with Henry. And I think she has shown a lot of patience with him. Helping him come out of his shell, trying to see the positive things in him, doing the things that he enjoys doing, like golfing. So I'm like, hats off to Christina. So they go to the crawfish thing. And of course, I said before how they, were complimenting each other and whatever, and people were noticing that. And we talked about how Amani is, not how Amani is. We talked about how Henry and Amani had that side conversation. And she basically told him, Amani brought this to my attention, and I'm just confused as far as why you never told me these things, that you are expressing them to her. And I don't remember what he said, probably nothing because I don't remember. And she asked him, if you had to make a decision today, would you want to be with me? And he said that if he had to make a decision at that moment, being forced to make a decision at that very moment, he says that he would not see a future with her. But he says he wants to stay with her and he wants to work it out with her. And he apologizes, and he says that he is willing to, be more communicative with her and to try to make it work. He is willing to work on it, which is good, because I thought he was going to say, I don't see a future in this. Period, full stop, dot, But he says he's willing to work on it. Then we go to Amelia and Bennett. So Amelia and Bennett. Okay, so Bennett is one of those very rigid people. He has his routines, he has his schedules, he has his assignments for the day, and he's going to stick to them. And Amelia, she's a little bit more free-spirited. She's a little bit more wherever the wind carries me. If something needs to be done, I'll do it, but I don't need to make notes, and I don't need to make a schedule, I don't need to make a list. Bennett, not so much. So Bennett has laid out, because his whole thing was he wanted them to have assigned chores. And so he laid out what the chores were going to be. I don't know if this was serious or if he was being, because there were some chores there like answering the door in the middle of the night and some weird stuff like that. So I don't know if he was serious about these chores or if it was just to be funny. I don't know. But there were regular chores like washing dishes and mopping and cleaning the toilet. So he laid out all the chores in these little what do they call it? Sticky notes. And they got to pick, the chores that they would prefer doing. And of course, he let her choose first. So she picked all the stuff that she had no problem doing, and he picked all the stuff that he had no problem doing. And so, she's kind of like, well, this is kind of strange. This is kind of weird. She's not about that, but she'll go along with it. No big deal. So they go and they play bocce ball. I think that's how you pronounce it. They go and play bocce ball with, they went to go play it with Miles and Karen. And that was a nice little thing. And then they added like a rule to the game. Like if you lose or something, or if you win, you get to kiss your spouse. I wasn't paying attention, but something about that. Because I remember Miles ended up winning and he got to Karen had to kiss him. So he beat Karen. And so her punishment for losing was she had to kiss him. And she did kiss him. She kissed him on the forehead. And he said, I will never wash my forehead again. So that was really, really sweet. And this was a rule that Bennett added to the game. And in his little confessional, he said, Miles, thank me later. Because it helped him and Karen get closer, more physically closer. Okay, so then Bennett, this is the sweetest thing that I ever saw, but Bennett makes dinner for Amelia. And he wants to show Amelia his appreciation for her taking care of him when he was really sick. And so he's making dinner for her, and then he has a surprise for her. All of a sudden, the doorbell rings, and two of Bennett's friends are there, and they're dressed really, it was like any other situation, I would be like, this is so weird. But because it's Bennett and Amelia and we know how they are, it was so refreshing and interesting. So these two women come over and they're dressed in these costumes. I don't know what else to call them. I can't even describe it. One of them had a hat that was like a jester's hat, but more crazy. The other one was completely covered up from head to toe, and all you can see was like her face. That's all you could see. She looked like a pea in a pod or something. So I don't know what was going on with that, but it was so Amelia and Bennett. And they're there because one of them has a guitar, and they're there to sing a song dedicated to Amelia. So he had his friends come over to sing this really beautiful song to Amelia. And it was so precious and so beautiful. And Amelia really appreciated it. And, she said she got chills, and it was just really, really nice. Who would think of that? This is beyond flowers and candy and a nice dinner. I mean, he put a lot of thought into it for him to be like, hey, can y'all come over and sing this song? And I'm pretty sure the song expressed how he felt about her, and the whole thing was just so beautiful. So anyways, after that, there's a scene of them bike riding. They go bike riding, and after they bike ride, they sit at a bench, and Bennett says, let's talk about the things about each other that irritates each other. You tell me the things about me that irritate you, and vice versa. So he tells her, he starts off with, he has an issue with her, how fast she washes the dishes. He said that whenever she cleans a glass, she only cleans the inside and it would still be dirty on the outside. And I'm like, who washes dishes like that? Is that real? Or maybe, is that true? I was like, wow, that's very unhygienic. So he says, I have an issue with that. And so Millen's like, okay, I will clean the whole glass the next time I do dishes. And then he asks her, so what issues do you have with me? And she was like, I don't have any. And so he starts listing things about himself that other people have had issues with. And she was like, nope, that doesn't bother me. And he's like, well, what about when I do this? And nope, that doesn't bother me. Or what about when I do that? And she's like, nope, that doesn't bother me. And every little thing that he said, she was like, well, I think that's cute. Or I think that's, I like that. That's so you, or whatever she would say. She would respond with a compliment about it when other people have criticized him for those, those little quirky things that might irk other people. She responded with positivity, and she was like, no, I actually like it when you do that. Oh, I think it's adorable when you do that. They're just so, I just cannot get over Amelia and Bennett, especially Amelia now. She's kind of becoming my favorite over Bennett. Because his things with the rules and the chores and the list of chores and all the sticky notes, I was kind of like turned off by that. So anyway, Olivia and Brett. So Olivia and Brett, where do we go from here? Okay, so it starts off with them waking up in the morning and they're making the bed, and Olivia says that she would rather make the bed alone because he's so bothersome when they're making the bed together. Like, he's asking a whole bunch of questions. Well, how do I fold this? And how do I do this? And, he's just in the way. He's annoying. And she just wants to make the bed and be done with it. But as they were making the bed, he did have a point. He did bring up a good point. So the bed sheet obviously has a tag on it. And so he asked her, so does the tag go at the front of the bed or at the foot of the bed? And she says it goes at the foot of the bed. Correct. And then he says, well, does the tag face up or down? And I think she said it faced up, or she said it didn't matter. And I was like, no, ma'am, it does matter. The tag has to face down. You can't have the tag facing up, because then it's like your sheet, if sheets can be inside out or wrong side up, your sheet will be, wrong side up. So the seams of the sheet that are not supposed to be showing will show. So he was like, I think you're kind of wrong about that. I think it should be tag facing down. And she was like, nope, tag facing up. I'm like, no, I couldn't sleep in a bed with the tag facing up. I have to have the tag facing down. So all the seams of the sheets or whatever, the folds and the seams are facing down. Anyways, moving on. So they go rock climbing, which is good. This was a good experience for them. This is something that he enjoys doing. So she wanted to do something that he enjoyed doing. She says, that she was happy to be out of the house, because she says that things have kind of gotten, for lack of a better word, boring with him. That's what I think she wanted to say. So she was excited to get out of the house and go rock climbing. So they go rock climbing and they have a good time with that. There was no issue there. And she liked how he was really encouraging with her. And I agree if this was genuine, because I think that Brett is really playing a part. I don't think Brett is genuine. Like I said, I don't think we have seen the real Brett since he's been married to Olivia. I think Brett does and says things that he is supposed to say, but there's really no feeling behind it. There's no, what's the word? There's no sincerity behind it. So when he was encouraging her and telling her, good job, you got it, you're doing good, keep going, it sounded good, but it just sounded like Brett saying the things that he knows he is supposed to say at the right time. Like he's on cue to say whatever needs to be said for that particular scene. That's how I feel about Brett. And I could be wrong. And I hope I am wrong. And I hope that, when it comes to decision day, he does want to stay with her and that they can make it work. But I kind of feel like he's disingenuous. And so after that, they go to the crawfish thing with with Christina and Henry and Amani and Woody. I don't think, was there anything significant about them if there was, I don't remember. So after that, there's a night where they go to trivia. So Olivia loves trivia. And so she had a whole bunch of her friends, including Brett, go to trivia night at some establishment, some restaurant. And so she says that he knows a lot about a lot. And so he would be really good at trivia. So when they go to trivia, the person who's hosting the trivia game, he's kind of asking questions like, how do you use this word in a sentence? Or what was one of the questions that he asked? It wasn't really trivia the way you would expect it. I guess trivia encompasses more than just random knowledge about random things. It could also be if you know how to use grammar correctly, or I forgot the stuff that was asked. But I kind of agreed with Brett. Brett was like, this really isn't trivia. And one of Olivia's friends kept telling him, oh, it gets better. Just give it time. We'll get to the real heart of the trivia questions. Just give it time. But it was taking too long to get there because Brett was obviously getting really bored. Because when a question came up for their team, I think they were in teams, the friends would ask Brett, hey, Brett, what's the answer to blah, blah, blah? And he'd be like, oh, I wasn't paying attention. I don't know. Like, he was really not there. He wasn't focused at all. And it hurt Olivia's feelings that he was disinterested, because she, made a big deal about, I wanted to bring him around my friends, and I wanted him to interact with my friends, and I thought he was going to enjoy trivia, So she felt really hurt about it. And I was like, girl, get over it. This is not trivia. I don't know what this is, but this is not trivia in the true sense of the word. It's not asking questions about history and pop culture and entertainment. It was asking some dumb stuff. And so she leaves the table because she's really upset and she's really frustrated with him. And one of her best friends follows her out, and she tells her friend how, she really tried and it's not working out, and basically complains and whines about Brett, I guess. I didn't really pay attention to what she was telling her friend. I'm not that great of a reviewer, I see. Okay, moving on to Miles and Karen. Wow, a lot of notes here from Miles and Karen. Okay, so after the whole, I'm gonna put on the calendar the night that we're gonna be intimate. After that whole fiasco, Karen left. She didn't stay the night. She took off. She said she needed space, and so she left. So she didn't come home that night. I was gonna say she never came home. She didn't come home that night. And I feel like, no, if you really are serious about making this marriage work, then you got to take this a little bit more seriously. I don't believe in spouses not coming home because they're upset. I don't believe in that at all. So for her to leave like that and not come home, I'm kind of thinking, okay, so this is how you deal with things. So this is how you deal with things, and most likely you're not going to change. Especially if he's not going to let her know how upsetting it made him. So he was like, yeah, she didn't come home, and it really gave him a lot of anxiety because he was texting. Did he say he was texting her? I don't think he was texting her. I think he was trying to let her have her space. And so she really questions his intention. So when she came back home, she said that she expressed how she felt about what he said, that he was going to put on the calendar, because they have a calendar on the refrigerator, and that he was going to pencil in when they were supposed to have sex. That it really bothered her that he did that, because, she felt unsafe with him. She felt like, he was going to make it happen whether she liked it or not, that he was intent on this happening, even though he was trying to make it in a jokey way. I think she saw something in his eyes that kind of made her feel like, oh, okay, maybe this is not fun and games anymore with him. And so she told him that she was really upset about it. It really pissed her off that he would do that, for putting it on the calendar. And she told him that this can never happen again. And of course, he agrees. And she says that they need to be more considerate of each other's actions. You need to put a lot of thought in the things that you do and say, and think about, how that can make the other person feel. He, agreed to that. He apologized for breaking her trust, and she forgave him. And she said that, this is what I liked. In the course of her telling him how uncomfortable it made her, what he did, and in the course of him acknowledging that and apologizing for that, I liked how she accepted his apology, and that she recognized that she has to work on some things herself. So this was not a bashing Miles party. This was something happened. We're acknowledging it. We're communicating about it, and we're going to move forward with it. We're going to try to fix it. So she says, okay, I need to work on being more, what did she say? She needs being closer to him. I need to work on, being more affectionate with him. And I like that she noticed that there was things that she could work on as well. So that was really good. They go and play bocce. We talked about that with Bennett and what's her name? Amelia. We talked about all of that, and, the kisses and all of that. And, oh yeah, when they were playing bocce, and when she kissed him on the forehead, Miles said that her kisses gave him butterflies. He is so smitten with this girl. Anyways, it's moving on. So then he meets up with Woody at the barbershop, and Miles said that he has never seen Woody like this before. That, him falling so quickly and so hard for Amani. Miles was like, I never would have thought in a million years that you would be in this situation where you actually say the words, I love you, to a female, because that has never happened. In the history of Woody, he has never told a girl that he loved her. And he's never acted, so head over heels in love with a girl before. So Miles was like, wow. And, Miles tells Woody about his problems with Karen, how she left and didn't come home. And then Woody asked Miles, how did that make you feel? And he said it made him really upset that she did that. And I think Woody asked him, well, were you calling her? And he said, no, because I wanted to give her space. Karen is really not someone who would have responded to my calls or my texts. And so Woody said, well, if it was Amani that did that, I would have been blowing her phone up. There's no way you're going to not come home. He's like, that's no way that's going to happen. So he says, I would have been calling and texting all night long. And then Miles tells Woody that Karen isn't the kind of girl who would respond to that. He said that if he were to tell Karen, I love you, it would not go well. She would leave and probably never come back. It would not go well. That's not the kind of relationship that they have, like Amani and Woody. And so he has to respect that. And Woody says, well, I don't want you to slow down so much and to change so much of who you are that the relationship never progresses. So you feel like you have to step back on your feelings. You got to pull your feelings in because she's not ready for all that. And she's definitely not there with her feelings. So now you have two people who are not really progressing in this romantic, loving relationship. So, I hope that Miles took that. Miles is like, I don't see how Miles lives day to day with Karen, because he's like on pins and needles with her. Like, he doesn't know what to do. I'm pretty sure he overthinks everything he says and everything he does, because it's kind of like, well, she's showing progress. So does this mean that I can be more affectionate with her? And then he'll try, and then she's not comfortable. She's pulling back again. So now he has to pull back again. And so he doesn't know, like, what to do or where to go with her, because it's like he can see that she's there, like she's, wanting, because she always talks about how I need to be more affectionate. I need to be more affectionate. And he sees her trying, but then he can't really, like, hurry up and meet her there because she's not really ready for that. So he has to pull back. And then maybe that's going to make her pull back. So I'm pretty sure that Miles is, like, very stressed out. But he's doing his best. So then they go to yoga, Miles and Karen. And it's one of those yoga situations where, like a couples yoga, where, so it teaches you how to be more intimate, closer to your partner, to be more open with them, to be more relaxed with them. So there's a lot of touching and massaging of each other. And the part where Karen so we have this scene where Miles is laying like almost spread eagle on the yoga mat. And the yoga instructor tells him, you take off your shoes and your socks. And so he takes off his shoes and socks. And Karen is supposed to massage his feet. And the yoga instructor is with, I guess, his partner, and he's massaging her feet, bare hands on bare feet. But Miles and Karen couldn't do the bare hands on bare feet because I guess she was scared of his feet. So she had to get a wet towel, and she was, that was the buffer between her hands and his feet. But the rest of it, she did okay, massaging his body, starting from his feet, moving on up to his legs and his thighs and his chest, and then he turned over, massaging she did the whole thing, and he was really into it. It got to a point where it kind of got me a little bit uncomfortable watching because he was really, really into this massage. Very much into this massage. So I thought I was going to be seeing things that I wasn't supposed to be seeing because he was really feeling it. So that was great that they did that. Hopefully this will help them become physically closer. And then Karen did say in her confessional that she is finding herself becoming more and more attracted to Miles. And Miles to me looks a lot like Kevin Gates for some reason. He really reminds me of Kevin Gates, like a dark-skinned version of Kevin Gates. So anyways, that's Karen and Miles, and that's Married at First Sight. And thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me. And I really hope that you come back next time. Bye-bye.